production ever. And Aiden, man, love you and love what you're doing. And Jonas and Aiden together, it is amazing what they're doing. Kay and I try to come almost every Tuesday night, and we stand back and watch the move of God, what's happening with all of our students, and it blows me away. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of students, and watching them just engage. Guys, Kay and I went to Fine Arts this summer, and many of your kids went. We had 75 of our youth that went to Orlando. We were there 8 days with them. That's a long time with your kids, 8 days. And, you know, we came back, and this is what I said. Out of all of the years that we have gone, this group of kids are the most impressive I have ever been around in my life. I mean, I was amazed at their talent, their intellect, their social skills, their maturity. And I mean, walking away from that, I was just stunned. And I just want to say to you, you're amazing parents. I mean, raising kids like that is outstanding, unbelievable. In fact, I really should sit out there, and some of you should come up here and teach because you've done that good of a job. But it was amazing. Well, I want to jump into this, and we don't have a whole lot of time, and we're going to take a break in just a few moments. We can grab some drinks, and then we'll come back and we'll finish it up. But in a seminar like this, coming and talking about, parenting teenagers, a lot of times, we walk out and we forget so much of what we learned. This is what I try to do in every conference, every seminar that I go to, that I'm committed to walking out with 1, 2, maybe 3 ideas that I can tonight implement, that I can start, that can change the course of my life and our family. And so as I'm talking tonight, try to find that one thing, that's it. And you jot it down, put it in your phone, remember it. There'll be some things that you may want to take a picture of the screen up here, where you can take it home and you can see that. So let's jump into this. And I want to talk to you about the 3 R's of parenting. The 3 R's, and there are 3 things I want to talk about: relationship, routine, and rules that are absolutely vital when it comes to our kids. So number 1, relationships. Now, I do a teaching, and I talk about the 4 stages of parenting, and I love that teaching, which I'm not going to do that tonight. But what the teaching is, it talks about how we have to change roles as leaders, as parents, as our kids get older. For instance, when our kids are 1 year old to 5 years old, we are called commanders. I mean, we are in command. We do everything for them. Then the next stage is 6 through 12, and we're labeled there as personal trainers, because this stage is where we're training, guiding, and what we're doing is we're beginning to build the foundation of their character during those years. Then we enter into the teen years, 13 through 18, and this is where we are labeled as counselors. And this is the moment where we begin to really engage in higher level communication, and that we're building something with them that will last the rest of our lives. So at this stage, something begins to shift in our kids, 13 to 18 years of age. All of a sudden, their bodies are growing, their minds are stretching, and then there is this desire for independence, and independence awakes in them, and it rattles us, and everything in the house starts shaking, and the team starts building, and how much freedom do we give them? And do we loosen up on the reins? Do we tighten up, loosen up? What do we do? Because the goal in the teenage years is that slowly we're trying to move them from dependence to independence when they walk out our door after they've graduated, whenever that time may come, and that we're getting them ready for that. So remember that right now in our stage of teenagers, we are carrying the title as counselors. And I think it helps us tremendously to have that concept of knowing what our role is. Now think about a counselor. Some of you have gone to counselors. What do? Well, counselors are incredible listeners. And as you begin to pour out issues and problems, they will sit there and they will listen, and then eventually they will give advice. Whenever you tell of something that you have done wrong in your life to a counselor, they're not blowing up, red in the face, yelling and screaming at you, but a counselor will sit very calmly, and they will have the right tone, and they will be calm, but there will be a time that they will be brutally honest with you. And they'll bring correction, they'll bring accountability, and they'll give you the steps of how you can improve your life. And so what I'm talking about here is that we're building a relationship with these teenagers that we absolutely have to have. And your relationship is the key to your influence. Now, if you have a broken relationship with a teenager, right now things are not good at home. And I mean, you're becoming weary and you're tired. It's not a time to back off, throw in the towel, that I'm giving up, but it's just a time to refocus. And when I say refocus, if you feel like your whole relationship with your teen is telling them what they've done wrong, their attitude, their laziness, their disrespect, their disobedience, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Think of it as a bank account. And your bank account with them is empty right now. And you've got to restore that. And so over steady deposits, slowly, and you can start that tonight, slowly, that you begin to deposit love, words, kindness, time, and you start building one layer, one brick at a time. So what I want to do for the next few moments, that we're going to throw this out very, very quickly, but I want to give you some practical steps of how to strengthen a parent and teen relationship and how that this can be the best that it can be. When you have a teenager, during those teenage years, it can be the worst part of your life that you've ever had, or it can be the absolute best that you've ever experienced. And so I want to try to help us to really defend that, help that, and where we can have a great relationship with our teenagers. So these are some of the things that I did in connecting with our three sons. Number one, the power of five. When I was in my early 30s, we had Dustin. He was still a small child, and I had gone to a minister business kind of slash business seminar. And in this seminar, they were talking about the power of five. Now, many of you have probably heard of this. They use this a lot in the business world, the power of five. And so when I went home, there was something that triggered in me like I can use that in my fathering experience. And I used this through the entire time with all three boys, the power of five. Every day, trying to find 5 minutes with my child. Now, think about this. You think 5 minutes, that is it? How often are we all at home under the same roof, and yet we're watching television, on our iPhones, doing our own thing, doing homework, and there's no real interaction. We're there, but we're not connecting. The power of five is where I would find time to plop down, sit down by one of my kids, and just say, hey, how's it going? And, and just start pouring into them and saying, hey, I just wanted to tell you, man, I love you. I am so proud of you. I think about you all the time. You're my best friend in all the world. Now, I told all three of them that. You're my best friend in all the world. And you'll ask them questions. Hey, how's school going? What's going on? And we'll get often that teenage thing, and just shrugging the shoulders, not wanting to talk. But there are times when you ask a question and they're bothered by something at school, someone is bullying them, something's going wrong with a relationship, something's going wrong at school, tears will start flowing, and what a moment. Those 5 minutes will connect you with your child in a powerful way. 5 minutes, each child, just sit down, eye to eye, man, heart to heart. Let them feel your heart. Let them feel how much you love and you admire them. The second thing is that I learned was date your child once a month. And my youngest son, Brandon, who lives in Washington, D.C., they have 3 young kids. He may be the best at this of anyone that I've ever seen. And that once a month, he will take one of his kids out by themselves, and they will go out, and he just spends that time with them. Those kids crave that moment. When they hear that it's your turn to go out with Dad, I mean, it is the magical moment. His 5-year-old loves Buffalo Wild Wings more than anything in the world. And so that's where they go. He actually believes they're eating buffalo. And so they go there, and he also believes that they also fly because inside they have wings. But that's where they go. And it's just that one-on-one time. And Brandon talks about how that Carson never stops talking the entire time. But what an amazing connection. You know what? You don't have to spend a lot of money on doing that. You can go to Dairy Queen and you can get a hot fudge sundae for $2.50. And you can sit at Dairy Queen one-on-one, eye to eye, and let them talk. What a bonding, incredible moment that can be. Then there's another thing that we've talked a lot about, and that's table time. It's dinner time, eating around the table. This is so powerful, something that every family needs to schedule and work on. We started this 25 years ago when all three of our boys were in football, and our schedule was absolutely nuts. They were all at 3 different football fields, and we were just passing each other like ships in the night. And so finally, Kay got into a routine of schedule and saying we're going to eat at home maybe 2 times a week, and these are our sacred times. These are times that we're all going to be here together. And so we scheduled it, and these times became very, very special. But this is one of the things that I learned, and it was a great lesson. One day when we were sitting at the table, all of us are there. Brandon had brought his report card home, and it was a bad report card. And I mean, I was letting him have it at the dinner table, and then Kay was letting him have it. It was kind of like we were slapping each other, saying, "Yeah, it's your turn now. You go get him." And we were just rifle, just going at it. And and then he started crying, and he jumped up and knocked over the chair and ran out of the room and slammed the door. And it was really just an ugly scene. And I remember sitting there, and it was very silent. The other 2 boys were staring at me like I had lost my mind. And I remember getting up from the table and how bad I felt. And later that night, I told Kay, never again at the dinner table will we ever use that time as correction. That sacred moment, sacred time. Dinner table is only for one thing. That is for fun and laughter and storytelling and bonding. And that's not the time that we do any correcting at all. That has become one of the greatest bonding moments of our family's life. It's so powerful that all these years later, now there's 17 of us with all of our grandkids, but every Monday night we still meet and we eat together, and it's that moment of where we're all together. It's so, so good. 4, the next thing, show up in their world. Make sure that you are very involved in their activities, in their world. I was a youth pastor for 12 years, and this is where I heard so many stories from teenagers and the hurt that poured out of them talking about my parents really don't care about what I'm involved in. I look up in the stands, and I'm looking for my mom, looking for my dad, and they're not there, and I could see the hurt in their eyes. And I'm telling you, that did something inside of me. And I may have gone a little too far on this, but when our kids started playing, I didn't just go to the games. I went to every single practice. And I scheduled my time where I would pull up in my Jeep, and there I was on the hill, and they could see where I was. They saw me every single day. Many days I took a lawn chair and went out and sat in the grass, and I watched them practice. But they knew that I loved them, I cared about them, and I was invested in them. The next thing is be an example that you expect. And your home is a classroom. And as moms and dads, we are teachers every single day, and they're watching. And we've got to be careful. We have to live at the highest standard that we possibly can, and we cannot be lazy during this time of life when our kids are watching. If you want them to be honest, you want them to speak with the right tone, you want them to show honor, kindness, respect, then what we have to do is we have to show it, we have to demonstrate it, and we are the ones that are modeling that before them. The next thing is celebrate their strengths. So often we have this need and not a need, but we just gravitate towards negativity. Have you ever noticed how we do that? You can go to a football practice, baseball practice, they get in the car and you're saying, "You are lazy. You are sloughing off. I mean, what were you doing? You were the last one running in." I mean, we can just hammer them. Now, there's a time that we need to address things like that. But we also need to move the other direction, and where we're building them up and we're speaking life into them and that we're speaking positively, and whatever they are in need of, let God guide you in how you speak to your children, and your words are extremely powerful. The next thing is apologize when you're wrong. This may be one of the biggest things in all of these that I will share. This is a life-changing principle that when we're wrong, that we apologize. For instance, you may have blown up, you lost your temper, you said things maybe to your wife that you should not have said. And then later on, you sit down with one of your children and you say, I just want to tell you how sorry I am for how I acted today, and that I've already apologized to your mother, but I want to apologize to you, and I'm embarrassed by my actions, and I'm here to ask you, would you please forgive me? Because what I did tonight, you will never see me do again. You know, I've had a lot of parents that disagree with that and think, you know what, I could never do that. Because by apologizing, it undermines authority. Let me tell you what it does. It rockets respect for you through the roof. And whenever you do that, things change. Something changes in your life, and something changes in their life, and it is a powerful moment. The next one is listen without overreacting. And I want to share with you one of my biggest parenting mistakes that I ever made. One of my sons came and confessed something that he had done. And when he said what he had done, it shocked me. It surprised me. It took me back. I was embarrassed by it. I was humiliated by it. And before he finished, I laid into him. And I mean, I went after him. And I mean, it was just boom, 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 boom. And I watched what happened with him, and where he's confessing something, and then I'm reacting in that way. And I damaged that relationship for over more than a year, because he was not coming back to me again after experiencing that. Whenever you think about when someone comes or a child comes to you and they've really messed up, and it's a big, big deal, the bigger the deal it is, the better this principle works. And when they share with you that they've really messed up, bite your lip, sit on your hands, whatever you have to do, but do not react. Just sit and listen and let them completely finish. And when they finish, your heart may be broken. You may be hurt by what they have done. Maybe it has even frightened you by what they're saying. But you respond like this. You know what? This is bad. But the two of us are going to get through this. And I'm going to walk with you every step of the way. In a moment of crisis, there is a bonding moment that takes place. And that bonding moment will never be forgotten. Now, if we react like I reacted, and that we lose our temper, and that we're embarrassed, that's the stupidest thing that anyone's ever done, I'm humiliated, I am angry, and you go after them, then there is separation in that moment of crisis, and they'll never come back to you again. There is a scripture in the Bible that talks about this, that sin thrives in secrecy, but healing comes in confession. You have to have your child open and trusting you, that they can come to you with any problem, no matter what size it is, because they know how you're going to react and that you're going to help them through that. You see, discipline can come later, but that's not the time that you're doing it, and that you're just saying, I'm here with you, and together we're going to walk through this. I want to move into the second R, and I'm going to move very, very quickly through this one, and it's routine. The power of routine in the home. Another word for routine is consistency. And when you think about consistency, there are no in-betweens. You are consistent or you're not consistent. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say, well, I'm a little consistent. You know, that just doesn't work. You know, you're just consistent or you're not consistent. And so a lack of consistency is one of the most common pitfalls in parenting. And the reason why is because developing routines and consistency is not easy. Our superpower as parents, this is what it is. The superpower is when we are steady, consistent with our words, our actions, our emotions. Even when we're tired, we're irritable and exhausted. And it's when we are able to control ourselves, and routine and consistency will stabilize our home environment. And so when you walk into the door At the end of work every day, remember this. When you walk in, your kids need what you needed when you were their age. That one thought is the one thing that changed my parenting skills more than anything else. Thinking back, when I was their age, what did I need? And what I needed, that's what I'm going to give to my children. The worst thing that can happen is that if we're not in control of our emotions, we're coming home from work and we're in a bad mood. Things did not go well at work. And when our kids have no idea who's going to walk through that door, is it going to be Hannibal Lecter or is it going to be Mother Teresa? And we just don't even know. And when they don't know, it puts them on edge, and it's not a comfortable setting. I have a friend that we became great friends before we ever had children, and they're still attending this church. And so as young fathers, they had 3 children, we had 3 children, and I'll just say David was raised in a home where his father was rigid. It wasn't that real warmth. And so as he had children, he could feel himself falling back into the same patterns of his father. And it's so easy to do that we just do what we have seen and what we've experienced. And so sitting in a Bible study, the two of us, and talking about family life and children, David started telling me that, he said, when I drive into the driveway of my home, coming home from work, he said, I will not get out of the car. I will not get out until I have settled in my mind how I'm going to react when I walk in that door. It doesn't matter what I'm faced with. If it's turmoil, if it's chaos, or if it's peace, it doesn't matter. I know, and I've settled it in my heart, how I'm going to react, what I'm going to do, the tone of my voice when I walk in. And David has become one of the greatest fathers I know. His daughter's right there. Both of you. Wow, all right. And so I didn't know you would be here. But what an amazing thing, that process, that I've watched that unveil. Well, it's one of the things of really learning how to control our emotions. And I think we convince ourselves that sometimes I lose my temper and we want to blame everybody else. I wouldn't have lost my temper. I wouldn't have said that if you had not done this. And we think that we really cannot control it. Has this ever happened where you get into a family fight, and I mean, the temper is high, and I mean, it's raging, and people are yelling and screaming and going back and forth, and then the phone rings, and you pick up the phone, and you go, hey, Dave, how are you? Yes. Well, how's the wife? And, we're doing so good. We couldn't be better. And all of a sudden, we're in this rage, and now we're controlling our emotions, and we cannot control our emotions. Don't ever believe the lie that you can't, because what you create in that home is what your children are going to follow. It is absolutely crucial to create those kinds of settings. Then I want to go into the third R, and that is rules. And rules, it's learning how to balance rules and discipline, and how do we do that and stay still connected to our children. Every home has rules, but not every home has peace. And let me explain it like this, and this will come up on the screens. Rules are vital and extremely important, because rules, they're like your guardrails. The rules that you establish is how our children learn values, respect, responsibility, and relationships. So relationships will trump relationships. Listen to this. Relationships will trump everything else in your home. So, for instance, relationships plus rules will equal a responsible, decision-making child. Rules, responsibilities, routines minus relationship. The relationship isn't what it needs to be. It's not great with your teen. Minus relationship equals rebellious and defiant children. And you cannot effectively parent without having a tight, loving relationship with your child. And it is absolutely vital. So I want to explain this to you. Discipline and relationship and how you hold these together. So here is a scenario that I want to share with you. There's a 16-year-old kid in the home. He's at home with his mother, and she asks him to do something. And he blows up, he's angry, and he says things to his mother that he should have never said. He's defiant, rebellious, and refuses to do what she asked him to do. Later that afternoon, when Dad comes home, she tells him what her son said and what he did. And the father is angry. And he storms upstairs, bursts into his bedroom, and lashes out and lays into him. And telling him that he will never do that again. Angry, grounding him, saying, stay in your room. I don't want to see your face again. And just, an ugly, ugly scene. Dad walks out. The son sits in the room, and now he's brooding. And he's becoming more angry. And how much he hates his mother, hates his father, hates his home. Now let's go back to the 16-year-old who spoke to his mother like that. Dad comes home. She tells him what the 16-year-old said and did, and Dad is angry. But Dad pauses, and he doesn't go to his son's room. Calms down, thinks, prays, and uses wisdom. A little later, he walks up to his son's room and opens the door. He sits down face to face and says, what you did earlier today will never happen again in this home. I'm embarrassed by it, and you should be embarrassed by it. But today, both of us know it will never, ever happen again. Let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to go downstairs in a few moments, and you're going to sit down at the table, and you're going to apologize to your mother and tell her why you're wrong and why you will never, ever do that again. Then I'm going to ask you to ask your mother out on a date. And you're going to take her to a nice restaurant, and you're going to raise the money for that meal. If you have to mow lawns, whatever you have to do. But I want you to set the date, get it on the calendar, and then take her out. That time comes, he raises the money, they go out to dinner, they're sitting in a nice restaurant, face to face, having an amazing conversation and bonding over that meal. What happens here is through wisdom and understanding. It's relationship, discipline, relationship, rules, that there has to be a balance. Because what we're doing is that we're trying to enter into their world, we're guiding them, we can discipline them, whatever we need to do, but relationship can never be jeopardized. And that's what we have to do, is keep them close, close, close to us. And so he could have brooded in his room and where everything would have gotten worse. But the Father, through relationship and through wisdom, was able to direct this of where there was a healing and a bonding that took place. All right, so those are the 3 R's. I did those very, very quickly. Hopefully there were maybe a couple of things in that stands out. And so I'm going to ask you just to stand real quick. I want you to stretch. And then we're going to go into a couple of things about today's culture, some of the things that we're faced with, and we'll wrap this thing up. But they have some drinks over here, and they have popcorn. If you want to grab something, and then come right back, and then we'll have a countdown, and then we'll start right back into the second part real quick.
Nothing to lose, so can't stop, won't stop falling into you. My
All right, we're ready to get started. So we're going to talk just a few minutes before we get out of here. I want to talk about raising children in today's culture. And we're up against some real difficulties, and I want to address a couple of these. The smartphone, iPhone, has been deemed as the greatest invention in the 21st century. I mean, it is a tremendous tool. There are many times I wonder, how in the world did we survive life without a phone? You know, back when we were raising our kids, there were times we had no idea where they were at, and it was terrifying at times. And so the phone, when you think about how it connects us, we have grandkids in Washington, D.C., and through FaceTime, texting, Instagram, Facebook, I mean, we can stay connected. The phone is an amazing tool. Also, when you think about what it can do for us spiritually, is absolutely incredible, because it has Bible apps, podcasts, sermons, Bible reading, devotionals, worship playlist. You can have someone read the Bible to you as you're going to work. I mean, it is amazing how much knowledge and wisdom that we can gain through the Word of God because of our phone. And I could go through many, many, many things about the phone. It is a tremendous tool. But the phone also is labeled as the double-edged sword, because as tremendous as it is, it's also an extremely destructive tool to our children. And the last 2 weeks, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but almost every single day in the last 2 weeks, they're talking about the iPhone and what screen time is doing to teenagers. And just now, after 10 years of study, these are coming out. And so a lot of information is being flooded out right now. Also, I just heard this week that 31 states have passed laws to have phone-free school classes. And they're already reporting right now the tremendous difference that has made in the classroom, not just with learning, but also socially. And so there's a kind of an awakening right now that phones are great, and yet phones can be very, very damaging, and we all realize that, we all sense that. And as they're talking about phones and teens, you know, it creates sleep disruption, academic decline, developmental delays in social skills. We see that all the time. And then the one that really concerns me is the exposure to pornography. And this is what is so sad. And as parents, it frightens us, it scares us, and we agonize over it. But here's the latest statistics, that the average age of exposure to pornography right now in America, because of the phone, is from 8 years old to 11. That is the first exposure. Now listen to this. 90%, think about how much 90% is. 90% of children between the age of 8 and 16 have viewed online pornography. And here's another concern, is that porn use among girls is rising sharply to addiction levels. And everyone's shaking their heads like, what do we do? And no one knows what to do. It's a dilemma. We know that there is danger, and there's all kinds of problems. Think about the phone as a portal. And when you hand a phone to a child, it's a portal to every idea, influence, and temptation on the face of the earth. And the worst part about this is that technology is not just waiting for your child, but it's chasing after your child through algorithms. And I want you to think about this. Algorithms are like predators to our children, because once they click on something, then what it does is it pulls that back up again, and then it feeds it more and more and more. And when it gets on pornography, then that's how our kids are trapped. And that's what's creating these addictions and the deep, deep concern. So again, what do we do? And everyone's kind of thrown up their hands, because we're handing our kids iPhones. We all do it. And yet we know that there's risk that is involved, but you cannot live without an iPhone. You just can't do it. And so here's just a couple of things that came out this week, and this was on the news, and they were talking about, and experts are saying that if there is any possible way to push off phone use until they're in the 8th grade, please, please, please do that. And guys, I know that is extremely difficult because of the peer pressure, because everybody else has a phone, everyone else is doing it, and it's really, really difficult. Here's the other thing that they were talking about is whenever you give your child a phone, on the very first day that you have written rules, not verbal rules, written rules about this phone, and that these are our boundaries, these are our rules, and make sure that those rules just become normal. And when it becomes normal, then you can function in that. Now, if you give them total freedom, then you try to reel that back in, that's where it becomes like a war zone. And so here's some ideas when it comes to creating tech-free zones and times. And a lot of parents are now coming together. A lot of parents in churches are coming together and kind of creating this force, and where they're all doing the same thing, all working together, where it makes it easier. And so these are some of the rules if you want to jot these down. No phones at the dinner table. That includes parents. That when we sit down at dinner, all phones are turned off, put away. Let's get rid of those. Again, when you start that, and that's agonizing for everybody, but the benefits can be absolutely phenomenal. Then also, no screens in bedrooms overnight. This is where the damage takes place. If your teenager has their phone at night, laying in bed, this is where it can go off really, really off the rails really, really fast. Going on to things they should not be, and there it just keeps going, and it goes and goes and goes, and just until there's major problems. iPads and smartphones are charged overnight in the parents' room. Everyone in the home, they plug in their phones in their parents' room at 9 o'clock every evening, and a lot of people have gone to this, and boy, this is a safeguard that has to be done. Something else that I think is a great thing, it's a great idea, that there is a weekly screen-free night. So when everyone's at home, maybe on a Thursday night, that's just a screen-free night. Everyone puts their phones up, mom and dad, all the kids, and they go one night without our phones. Now, I don't know if we can survive that, but we can give that a shot. But I think those things, those kind of things are really, really good, and it's moving us in a right direction. But I want you to remember that the moment that we give our kids a phone, the moment they receive that phone, if they're 10, 11, 12, however old they are, no matter what, they become absolutely obsessed with the phone. We all do. We do it as parents. This is what the newest statistics are saying, that 50% of teenagers with iPhones are now falling into the category of addiction. And whenever they are addicted to their phones is where great damage is really taking place in their lives. So we as parents have to model this. But the problem is 50% of the kids are addicted to their phones. 48% of parents with kids in the home are addicted to their phones. And so this is where it's like everyone throws up their hands and like don't even know what to do. I want to throw something on the screen. And this is the phone addiction self-assessment. And maybe you want to take a picture of this, and we'll pull this back up at the very end where you can take another picture of it. But this is just a great tool to take home, and for you as a parent, take this test and to find out where you fall in this. What do we need to do? Maybe it's alarming to you to the point that you're saying, you know what? I need to start dealing with this in my own life, and as we deal with it with our own children, and make it a family thing, that we're working on this thing together and allowing the influence of the phone not to devastate us. Guys, protect your children from pornography. This is one of the things in the church world here that we're dealing with over and over and over again. And it's heartbreaking when you talk about good church kids, but they're addicted already to pornography. And when they sit down and they talk to us, they're weeping, they're sobbing, they're embarrassed by it, but they don't know what to do. And so don't ever be deceived, and it's easy for me to be deceived in thinking, my kids aren't doing that. Remember the statistic that 90% of kids are viewing or have viewed porn online, and you never know what triggers something, and it can just go from there. So keep that in mind. Okay, here's another cultural dilemma, and we'll wrap it up with this. Not long ago as parents, the dreaded conversation that we had to have with our kids. Oh, buddy, I dreaded this conversation. The conversation of the birds and the bees. And you just thought, oh, do we really have to go this way and go do this? And so now the talk of the birds and the bees almost seems like child's play compared to what we're faced with now, because we're faced with some real dilemmas. And when our kids, and when they're in middle or in elementary, in middle school, now think about how young this is. Elementary and middle school, they are faced with all kinds of terms and labels, such things as gender dysphoria, biological sex, cisgender, transgender, non-binary, genderqueer, agender. That's more gender than I even know what to do with. That's a lot of gender. But these are phrases and terms that our kids are hearing and they're talking about. And one of the moms here, and I think she's here in the room, I saw her at North at the coffee shop the first week of school, and she was telling me, she said, yeah, my daughter came home today and said that she joined a club. And I said, oh, you did? What club did you join? She said, well, I'm really not sure. It had a bunch of letters in it. It was like LG and then a bunch of letters. And she said, LGBTQ? And she goes, yeah, that's it. And her mom goes, well, we'll be finding another club for you, all right? And so, again, these are young kids, and it's just a different world in which we're living in, and just trying to really navigate through this. We have 3 kids, I mentioned, in Washington, D.C., and they're 3 grandkids, and they're very young, 4, 5, and 7. And so they go to school and up until the 3rd week of June, so they were in school during Pride Month. And so they were sending a flyer home, a flyer home each week, and as they celebrated Pride Month, and I want this to come up on the screen, Brandon sent this to me. And so they were asking the kids each day out of these 3 weeks to dress up. And so on one day, they were asking them, it was going to be Sparkle Day. Another day would be Rainbow Tie-Dye Day. The next day, you can see here on June the 12th, it would be to dress up as your favorite queer icon. And you're talking about preschool students, a first grader, a second grader, and how do they know what their favorite queer icon would be? And the only way they would know that is by what is being taught in the school. And so sexual identity and gender choice is being brought before them before they even understand sexuality. And so there is a dilemma here that we no longer can be silent. Now, I also want to make sure that we understand this, that when it comes to this lifestyle, our kids need to know we never name call, we never bully, we never make fun of, we respect all people, all people. But we have certain values that are based on the Word of God that we live by, and those are the values in which we do live. And if the classroom is going to be the loudest voice in their life when it comes to this, silent at home, but if they're the loudest voice, then slowly our home values will be replaced by culture's values. And that's exactly what's taking place right now in the home. In the classroom. I want to read a statement to you, and I want to read this slow, and I want you to hear this, because I'm questioning and wondering, why are they pushing this so hard with such a young age? What is driving that? And what do we do to protect our children? Well, here's a statement. From the beginning, God designed marriage between a man and a woman, not only for companionship, but also for the gift of bringing new life into the world. Genesis 1:28. In same-sex relationships, natural reproduction cannot take place. Because of this, the only way this belief system grows is through cultural influence by persuading others to embrace it. And one of the most effective strategies is to begin shaping the worldview of children before they're old enough to fully understand human sexuality. That's why so much of today's gender and sexual identity conversations have shifted into the classroom, media, entertainment, and targeting the very young. The goal is not just to inform, but to normalize and affirm these lifestyles in the hearts of children while they are still forming their sense of identity. And so that's what we're up against. And we're silent because what in the world, as Christian parents, do we say? And that we're so afraid to bring up something that maybe they've never even heard, and we just don't know what to do. What I want to do is I want to put something on the screen, and again, take a picture of this, get this on your phone. We'll bring it up again at the end of this. But I put together a guide that can help you talk to your children when it comes to identity. And this is an amazing tool just to get things started and just to talk to your children. For instance, there's a worldview versus the Word of God view. And so when you look over here and you see it on the left-hand side, the source of identity. What is the source of our identity? And you can talk to your kids. Well, the world says that you define who you are. You make that choice, you define who you are. But then you find what God's Word says, God defines who you are. And so you go down through each one of these, and this just becomes an open door of conversation. And the bottom line is this: what we believe is based on not feelings, not what we think, but we base everything on the Word of God. It's our standard. And that's what our kids need to really understand. The Word of God is what makes the difference. The Word of God is where we stand. And so, just remembering that can help us a lot. So I just wanted to throw this out and just say to you that we need to be highly, highly aware, very aware in our kids' lives, very open in communication, and knowing what needs to happen. The greatest thing that we could do is start rallying together and helping one another and setting new standards, and where we march together, work together, and how that we could have a larger impact upon our own children and everyone else that is around us. It becomes a community. And so I wanted to throw that out, and kind of just say, hey, I'm trying to figure this out. My heart breaks for our grandchildren, because what I want is I want them to grow up solid, not confused, understanding identity, and again, never being hateful to anyone, loving all people, being kind to all people, but we have values that we stand upon and we do not bend. And so I'm going to leave you with that. And guys, I'm glad that you came tonight, and maybe we have just a couple of minutes that we could have maybe a couple of questions if you want to, or a comment or anything. Would there be anyone that would like to jump in on this and say anything before we close out? Yes. You're welcome. Yeah, you know what? When we took our kids to youth camp, and I was not there, but I heard about this. All the kids at camp, they put their phones in a bag. Everybody puts it in, and they don't have their phones. And man, some of them really bristled with that. But as that week went on, it was like absolute freedom for them, and they enjoyed it. And so, again, if we can set better rules and just slowly move into this, I think we can really make some headway. All right, one more real quick, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jonas. Yes? Thank you for your comment. I really appreciate that. You know, and again, man, if we can brainstorm together, and if you're in Bible studies, this would be a great time to just say, hey, how do we work together on this? And so, hey, it was a joy to be able to speak to you guys tonight. Glad you were here. Thank you for taking the time. You do have some of the best kids I've ever met in my life, and God bless you guys.
That was so amazing.